Damon Martin and I am here with one of the top lightweight fighters in the world. He is returning to action in November in a fight that I'm almost terrible to say that I don't think we really need to talk about it because it's so freaking awesome that you're just going to tune in and watch. He's going to take on Justin Gaethje in almost a guaranteed fight of the year coming up in November. Welcome back, Michael Chandler. Michael, how are you?
Damon, I am good, man. Thanks. And yeah, it's funny, man. Whenever you got two fighters like me and Justin Gaethje, there's no trash talking that needs to happen. You don't need to talk about anybody's resumes. If you know fighting, you know that both of us are going to come to fight. So, man, started camp, ready to get after it.
You put out that tweet the other day and said you're coming forward and you're going to make it a fight. And I retweeted and I said, I have a feeling this fight might last 3 minutes and the entire thing is going to be awesome. Like every second is going to be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously I have been I've been a guy who fights with his heart on his sleeve and just goes out there every now and then and makes some bad decisions, but it's always entertaining, So that's how I've always been. And even when you're fighting the likes of Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, these big time guys, the best guys in the world, I am who I am, and I'm going to continue to fight the way that I fight. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but most of the time it does. And hopefully November 6th, it works out. And Madison Square Garden is going to be fun.
It's so crazy. For the longest time when you were in Bellator, the biggest criticism whenever you would come up on free agency, it only happened a couple of times, but why did you go to the UFC? Why don't you want to fight the UFC guys? And you always said you always want to fight the UFC guys, but at the time, staying with Bellator, contractually, money, all those kind of things, you stayed. And I got it. I never faulted you for that. Your first 3 fights in the UFC, you're going from Dan Hooker, who is a legit top 5, top 6 guy in the world, Charles Oliveira, the current champion, and Justin Gaethje, who everyone knows is one of the top 3 or 4 lightweights in the world. Anyone who's worried about your level of competition has answered that question with just your first 3 fights in this organization.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I asked for. I didn't say, I didn't come into the UFC wanting to tiptoe around. I wanted to prove either I am one of the best guys in the world or I'm not, and selfishly, that was for myself because I knew if I had never made the jump over to the UFC, that I would never be able to live with not knowing. I would rather go to the UFC and go 0-2 and get cut than never go. Obviously, so far, it hasn't worked out that way. It's worked out very well. I've had some big opportunities, some big stages. And the crazy thing is, I don't know when this interview is going to come out, but as we sit here today, I've only been signed with the UFC for 363 days. It hasn't even been a full year. So if you think about going from free agency to signing with the UFC to October, the backup fight, to January, Dan Hooker, to May, calling out or to fighting for the title. And then by July, having a fight booked or calling out Justin Gaethje and having a fight booked in August, it's a pretty crazy year. It's a pretty crazy 12 months of an introduction into the UFC. And that's what I wanted to do. I am no spring chicken. I still feel like I'm 25. But I don't know how many more years I have left doing this. So I wanted to come into the UFC, kick down the door to the party, make myself known right away. And I think I did that with my debut. And then that with the circumstances surrounding Khabib and then the Poirier-Conor trilogy, they asked me if I wanted to fight for the title. I did. And man, fell short, but here we are now on another huge opportunity against one of the best guys in the world in Justin Gaethje on November 6th. And I think it's going to be fun. No matter what, win, lose, or draw, it's going to be entertaining. Everyone's going to tune in and we're going to have a blast.
100%. Before I get to Justin Gaethje, let me back up because we spoke about like 5 days after your title fight with Charles Oliveira. You went out there right away and said, I'm going to face this. I'm not going to back down from doing media. You've done a couple interviews because I texted you after the fight and I just said, keep your head up, whatever, because again, I typically like to leave you alone afterwards. I don't want to, but you got a family, you haven't seen your family in months, win, lose or draw. You haven't seen your family in weeks. You want to spend time with your kid. I try not to bother you too much, but you were out there and you said, oh yeah, of course we'll do an interview. And we did. And you addressed everything. But I will ask you this, now as we said, as you get ready for Justin Gaethje, assuming everything goes well, how much do you want to get the Oliveira fight back, or does that matter to you in terms of the future?
Man, honestly, for me, I never want to get one back. To me as a man, I look at the sport, whether it's this sport or any other sport, that it's just competition and the names and the faces don't really matter. You know, it's a guy with 2 arms and 2 legs, and he was going to compete against me that night, and he got the better of me, or, you know, Charles Oliveira did, or there's been 20 something times in my career that I've gotten the better of other guys. And it's never for me been about getting anything back. You know, I've lost numerous times in my career. None of those I need to get back, want to get back. Obviously, when I beat Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira fights Poirier, if he wins, of course, there's an extra added incentive to not just go fight for the UFC title again, win the UFC title, but to beat the guy who took it from me the first time, or took that opportunity from me the first time. So that would definitely be some icing on that cake. But it's never been about the opponent for me. It's always been about myself. You know, it's always been about these gifts that God has given me, this platform that I've been given. I'm really, truly am living a dream. You know, you and I have talked dozens and dozens of times over the last 13 years, and I have never felt so alive as I have over the last 12 months. Being in the UFC and fighting for the UFC, I was born for this. I was born for the bigger stages. I was born for more eyeballs. I was born for bigger impact. And I think for a long time fighting for Bellator, it was great. And I loved the people. I'm a people person. I love relationships. I love the people inside Bellator, but I didn't love the lack of notoriety, the lack of platform. So now over the last 12 months, man, I feel like I'm fighting on borrowed time. I feel like I'm enjoying the ride much more than I ever have. And I think I was born for moments such as this. And I think, you know, you and I talked free agency two years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, every single time I stayed with Bellator. And none of those times would have made as much sense. Just call it God's plan, call it the universe, call it whatever you want. You couldn't have scripted it any better coming into the UFC at the exact right time. So for that, I know I made the right decision. For that, it gives me a new sense of just enjoying this process, man. And it's a blast. It's fun. And it's, we continue to build this legacy. November 6th. And yeah, I hope it's Charles Oliveira next year when I fight for the title, because I would love to get that one back. But if it's Poirier, if it's anybody else, I'd love for that to be the case as well.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said right there, let me just say this. I love Bellator. I think they're great. I love what they do. So many of their fighters are amazing, but we can't lie and say being in the UFC isn't a different animal in terms of attention. I mean, your signing blew up. I mean, you know, just your first, I mean, you've seen it, you know, I mean, the attention you get, everything you say gets publicized, everything you do becomes an attention getter. I mean, it's just a different animal being in the UFC, but you've embraced it. You've really embraced it and enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have. And I think it was those years of patience. I think it was those years of just building a reputation, continuing to train right, trying to operate with integrity, trying to be as known as I possibly could be. You know, I mean, I had to promote myself. I had to build my own brand because I didn't have a machine behind me. And Bellator was great. As I said, the people were great. But the opportunities that I've had over the last 12 months supersede all of the last 12 years before that, you know? And that's crazy to say. And that's a testament to the UFC. That's a testament to who they are and what they've built and the opportunity that these fighters have. And the coolest thing is when fighters get that. And I just saw Sean O'Malley talk about it. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And he was talking about, yeah, I probably should be getting paid a little bit more. But the beautiful thing about Sean O'Malley is he's not mad at the UFC, because if you're mad at the UFC, that means you're only worried about that one paycheck that you're getting. Sean O'Malley has a huge platform and is able to monetize his brand, his following, the things that he says and the things that he does outside of just the cage, outside of just the competition. And once you've mastered that and made peace with that, and you're grateful for the opportunity that you have, then things are going to work out much better for you in the end. And I'm very happy that I have the luxury of that thinking, only because I was outside of the UFC for so long. And I got to see these guys who I lived a cleaner lifestyle. I trained harder than they did. I worked harder than they did. And because I was around a lot of them, yet they had this huge amount of notoriety. And I just had to practice patience through it all, knowing that eventually the door would open, and it did. And we took every single opportunity in stride thus far.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. I remember we do a lot of interviews, so I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was right after you signed with the UFC. We did an interview, and I had you break down the top like 5 or 6 lightweights, because this is before the Dan Hooker fight had obviously been announced. or confirmed. We went down the list, and two fighters in particular you pointed out said, listen, at some point we have to fight. I don't care, title on line, not title on line, we have to fight. Dustin Poirier was one. Justin Gaethje was another. You just knew those fights were going to be amazing. And again, we don't need to really say anything about them. You put you and Dustin Poirier in the cage, it's going to be freaking amazing. We put you and Justin Gaethje in the cage, it's going to be freaking amazing. But since the Gaethje fight got announced, you know, Gaethje's got a lot more vocal, which is kind of surprising because typically he's not that kind of guy. He doesn't really say a whole lot about his opponents, but I don't know. I won't say personal. I think that's the wrong way to word it. But like, have you been surprised that he's kind of taking some jabs at you lately? Like, I'm kind of surprised that that's happened.
No, I'm not, because I never really, man, what we do for a living involves opponents and involves other people. You know, it's not like you're fighting against the stock market or you're fighting against the real estate market. You're fighting against another human being. So, and especially a guy like Justin Gaethje, he talks about going to that primal part of his brain, the primal part of his soul, so he can go in there and inflict bodily harm and do what the human highlight reel does, you know? So that's what he has to do. I don't think he does it on purpose. I think he does it because he needs that. That's what he's driven by. And that's completely fine. The sports psychology is an intricate beast to try to figure out. Some of us are motivated by 1,000 different things. All of us are motivated by different things. Justin Gaethje is motivated by, this guy's trying to take everything from me and I don't like him. And that's fine. But there is also some legitimacy to I think why he doesn't like me. I mean, I will sit here and admit, whenever there was a pool of, whenever Khabib retired and there was a pool of all of us, Justin Gaethje might have deserved to fight for the title more than me, more than Charles Oliveira, you know? So I think there's some resentment there, which is completely fine, completely warranted. I would have thought the exact same thing, but I think he was in some contract negotiations. I know obviously Dustin and Conor were tied up. So there's only so many options that the UFC had at the time. And with the debut that I made, shoot, man, I had a ton of momentum and I was willing to say yes. That's the one thing that I've done is I've said yes. I've said yes to Justin Gaethje numerous times, whether the fight was actually offered to him or not. I know that fight was being worked on for January 23rd, or January 23rd, for maybe for May. I don't know, actually. There were some talks of it. So it's just, when you're in the UFC lightweight division, everybody's so good and everybody's got such a big name that there's going to be some jockeying for position. He was left out of that one. So I would be just as mad as he is, which will in turn make you want to throw jabs at people. So, it's part of it, man. Either way, we will let our fighting do the talking. We will do what we have always done for the last, I think we've both been fighting around 12, 13 years. So we're going to do the exact same thing we've been doing for over a decade, against each other on November 6th. And no matter how many jabs you threw with your voice, you got to go out there and throw jabs with your fists. And we're going to go out there and do that.
I know the answer to the question I'm going to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyways. I remember after the first fight with Brent Primus happened in Bellator, I don't think it was personal, but I know it rubbed you the wrong way that he was kind of celebrating a victory when you got injured. You know, you had that freak injury in the fight. And I know it bugged you a little bit that he was like, celebrating being champion when he didn't, really knock you out or beat you in that way. But it didn't get personal. It's just kind of like that competitive spirit in you. Can I assume no matter what Justin is saying leading into the fight, and I'm sure something else will be said fight week or whatever, none of this bothers you? It's not personal to you?
No, it doesn't, because I actually don't. I look at every single opponent because I know number one, I know what they're going through, because I have to go through the fight camps. I have to go through the weight cuts. I have to go through the fear, the pain, the anguish, the ups, the downs, the tears, the joy. I have to go through all that stuff. And I've done it now for 28 fights. So I understand what they're going through, and everyone has their individual things that motivate them and the individual way in which they go about things. Haven't really changed much since I started fighting. I say a lot of the same things. My message is pretty darn clear. I speak a certain way, and people just don't like that. And a lot of my opponents don't like that, and that's completely fine. I think I have come into the UFC and made a splash. I didn't ask for a splash. I came in and just said, hey, I want a top guy right away, so I can either go ahead and get knocked out and go ahead and end this career, And I was, I wasn't as good as I thought I was, or maybe I am that good. That's all I wanted to do, is go out and prove that to myself, and prove that to the people that have been with me since day one. And I've gotten some opportunities, and I think that's rubbed some people the wrong way. I think that's rubbed Justin Gaethje the wrong way. But the only thing I would say is I believe Justin Gaethje got the same amount of preferential treatment, the same amount of Dana White privilege, the same amount of whatever you want to call it. He came out from outside the UFC, came in, got a top 5 guy right away. If he would have beat Eddie Alvarez, he would have gotten a title shot, but he lost to Eddie Alvarez, which made him go fight another couple fights. He's been in some big commercials. He's been on big fights. He's headlined cards. He and I have had very similar roads. I think he deserved it because he earned it. He probably in his heart of hearts really truly believes that I have deserved it and earned it, but he needs to convince himself that that I am, seeking attention, or I'm an attention seeker, and I am a fake and a phony and whatnot, or whatever other things he has said. So I don't think he's called me fake or a phony or whatnot, but more than anything, just a guy who doesn't deserve the treatment that I've gotten thus far. But you'll find the older you get and the longer you're doing things, those who ask and those who say yes to opportunities usually end up making it further than those that don't, or those that try to fight the powers that be. I'm not here to fight the powers that be. I'm here to fight the guys that they put me up against. And Justin Gaethje is the next one. And whether he loves me, whether he hates me, either way, I know he respects me. I know he's fearful of my attributes and the things that I bring to the table, because he has said that. And that's a very self-aware fighter. That's one thing I love about him. He does talk brash here and there, and he's confident in himself, but he's also self-aware enough to know that he is fighting dangerous opponents. And that's what I've done. And so I think we're cut from the same cloth. We'll probably be friends down the line. But November 6th, we're enemies.
Yeah. I love to talk matchups. I love to talk styles. We talked for years, like how you matched up with Khabib Nurmagomedov, because I always said I would love to see that fight just because he had never fought a wrestler of your caliber. And I always loved it. We talked that matchup so many times in the matchup and the breakdown. When I talk about the excitement of this fight, I almost don't like talking matchup and breakdown because I just want to watch it. I can't lie to you, Mike. I just want to watch it. You remember those old Looney Tune the Looney Tune cartoons when the Tasmanian Devil's just spinning around? Like, I feel like that's just the two of you are just going to go in there and it's just going to go wild. But let me ask you this, without giving away game plan or giving away like secrets of what you're doing with your coaches and getting ready, can you give me a sense, at least a little bit, of what you believe your biggest advantages are over Justin Gaethje, without giving away game plan, like in terms of fight styles, in terms of what you do well? What do you feel like you do have an edge over him?
Man, I think I'm just as tough as he is. I think my cardio is just as good as his. I think I have more power in my hands. I think Justin Gaethje has the ability to land some really great combinations. Him and Trevor Whitman have worked tirelessly on improving his boxing, both his offense and his defense. He's got great footwork, but I've been used to guys running away from me and dancing away from me my entire career because I put that kind of pressure on my opponent. So I think I'm going to put a lot of pressure on him, as I always do. I think when I hit you, you're going to feel it, and you're either going to continue to fight with reckless abandon and take the possibility of getting knocked out, or you're going to evade. And then when you evade on me, I've gotten very good at knocking people out as they evade, because I've just had so many reps in the gym and so many reps in my fights at it. So I don't want to say I'm better than him in every single aspect, but I think we're so similar because we both throw power punches. We both bite down on our mouthpiece. We're not afraid to fight fire with fire and be in the fire. And either of us could get knocked out. Of course, the human body was created to, if you hit someone on the button, they're going out. Just like he's gone out before. I've gone out before. But other than that, you're going to have to kill us to get us out of that octagon. So, advantage wise, man, it's hard to say. I could sit here and say, man, I'm better than him in every area. I got more power. I got better wrestling, or better this or better that. I think we're matched evenly in every single area, which usually would mean that it's going to be a boring fight. But because, like you said, you already know what the Tasmanian Devil does. You don't need to go see highlight videos of what the Tasmanian Devil does. You just need to sit down, grab your popcorn, grab a seat, and watch two Tasmanian Devils go out there and create a huge dust cloud in the middle of Madison Square Garden.
I understand I'm jinxing it by even asking this question, but I got to ask this question. There's no way this thing goes to decision, right? Like somebody's getting finished. There's no way the judges are going like the judges can grab their popcorn and just enjoy this fight, right?
Man, it's one of those things where you can't ever predict that. All you can say is it's going to be exciting. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to be exciting, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be a finish. And I say that because you could land 257 punches, each of us, but if they don't land at the right time on the right spot and someone doesn't get hurt or, go down and then a submission happens, then there wasn't a finish. But only thing we can guarantee is it's going to be exciting. Only thing we can guarantee is both of us. There's only so much a fighter can change. There's only so many attributes and habits and idiosyncrasies that can that a fighter can really change and tweak over the years. Me and Justin Gaethje are pretty similar in our styles, and we're very cut and dry as to the predictability of how we are going to fight. Of course, there's going to be little game plans that he's going to put together, me as well. Only thing we can guarantee is there will be violence and it will be exciting, and everyone at Madison Square Garden will be the beneficiary, and everybody who buys that pay-per-view will be the beneficiary, and we both get bonuses, that's for sure.
The only thing that matters to you right now is November 6th and beating Justin Gaethje. But we all know that's out there. I've reported it. In December, they are targeting Charles Oliveira to fight Dustin Poirier for the lightweight title. I know contracts aren't signed, but it's going to happen. We all kind of know it's going to happen. Can I imagine that if everything goes well and you beat Justin Gaethje, I mean, you talk about like there's only so many options out there. Connor's out with the broken leg till sometime in 2022. I still think that would be an awesome fight for you somewhere down the line, but it's Justin Gaethje and then a title shot again. Am I wrong? Like, I just don't see any. I'm not trying to look past this fight. I'm just saying, like, I don't see any other options.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if I had it my way, I call this a number one contender spot for me, but man, this is honest to God how I feel. And people will say I'm a homer or I'm a butt kicker or whatever you call it, man. But the UFC butt kisser, I am a butt kicker, but the people say I'm a butt kicker. The UFC has earned the right to do what they do on a daily basis. They make the matchups. That they see fit. Of course, I've had the conversations with them, and I think I will deserve a title shot, especially a rematch of Charles Oliveira or a highly anticipated fight of me and Dustin Poirier, where he and I have crossed paths numerous times. People have talked about that matchup. That's the great thing is, man, I'm going to fight the rest of my career fighting nothing but tough dudes in big, high-profile fights, and that's what I want to do. With that being said, I would like to think that this is a number one contender spot or fight for me or Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje has already come out and said he was told that this is a number one contender spot. He said that. So if he has said that, then when I beat him, that makes me the number one contender. So we'll see. Never say never in this sport. Never actually say something's going to happen until a contract is signed, but I'm enjoying the process. November 6th, we continue the process. We continue the climb. And no matter what, all four of those guys, Gaethje, Oliveira, Poirier, Connor, man, those are fun fights. So we're going to have some fun over the next couple of years.
100%. Michael, knowing you as long as I have, and I mean this in the most complimentary way possible, I always joke and say you're one of the nicest guys in the sport. You're one of the realest guys in the sport. And I would also say you're one of the least controversial guys in the sport. And I mean that as a compliment. You're not out there trying to get on TMZ by saying something insane just to get attention. That's just not who you are. You're a proud husband and father, and I know you want to serve as a shining example to your son. So you're not the guy out there doing the crazy stuff to say, look at me, look at me. But recently you suddenly got embroiled in a weird controversy about the vaccine, which was a comment you made on Instagram. And then obviously this thing came out with the Madison Square Garden, which, just to make it clear for anyone who's going to hear this interview or read this later, if you're fighting in Madison Square Garden, fighting in New York, the athletes are exempt from having to be vaccinated or not vaccinated. So that's not going to stop this fight from happening. I know that wasn't clear originally, but just so anyone wonders, I put out a tweet like a week ago, I think it was, where I said it's not going to matter. Was that weird to you? Do you kind of got drawn into that? I know because everything is so polarizing now that you say one thing and it's just like kaboom.
Yeah, it's hard because I think, there's certain topics, the world has gotten so fragile. And I don't mean that like people are fragile, but there's just these hot button issues that are always going to strike a chord. And the vaccine is one of them, But when you're in a sport like mixed martial arts, and the UFC has only been able to do shows in Florida, Texas, Arizona, Vegas. That's the only places they've been able to do shows thus far. And we got the Madison Square Garden one booked. Mandate comes out. So just to make it clear, yes, I have not gone on one social media platform and offered up my stance on the vaccine and said, hey, this is where I'm at and this is what you should do or this is what you shouldn't do. I was on a Instagram live on my own personal phone with a couple thousand people. Someone asked me about the New York City vaccine mandates. I said I wouldn't be vaccinated by November 6th. Some media outlet ran it 5 minutes after the Instagram live got done. So immediately it looked like I was going out there talking about how I wasn't getting the vaccine. That's fine if people think that. I just believe in personal individual liberties in the greatest country on the planet, which is the United States. And that's what we stand for. And that's what makes this country beautiful. That's what makes this country great. That's why there are people coming from all over the world trying to get into this country. That's why people are willing to hang off of a jet and fall to their death coming from Afghanistan just to come over to the United States, to leave some of these other places around the country, around the world. Why people are trying to come through the southern border. That's why this country is great, because we have individual freedoms, individual liberties, and nobody has the right to tell me what I should and shouldn't do, especially with my body, especially with my wife's body, my son's body, my health, my genetic makeup. So my stance hasn't changed since the beginning. I believe in choice, but I also believe that you should get the vaccine if you want to get the vaccine. I think they're highly effective, and I think they're saving people's lives. Me currently, I eat correctly, I supplement correctly, I sleep correctly. I am in the top 1% of the top 1% of the top 1% of the healthiest people on the planet. So I feel like my natural immunity is right where it needs to be. So it was rough getting involved in all of that, because I had probably over 100,000 different comments coming at me. And then the other thing I don't like as well is just the collateral damage, where I'm not arguing with people. I'm not saying things. Very few people I responded to, but then there's just thousands and thousands of people arguing because of the one thing that was written about me, and the other people get in arguments on my behalf, or they're arguing because of something that I did or said. And that doesn't sit well with me, because I don't believe we need to be arguing as much as we do. I think we all need to worry about ourselves, get our own household in order, get our own house in order. And if everybody worries about themselves and the people under their roof, then this world becomes a better place instead of worrying about what everybody else is doing.
What's crazy about it, I won't say funny is the wrong word. What's crazy about it is at no point, to make it clear, did you ever say I'm anti-vaccine, and you never said you shouldn't get the vaccine. You didn't tell people not to do it, which I think is the biggest, the weirdest thing about this whole ordeal is it's not like you were going out there saying you shouldn't do it. It's dangerous. It's this. You never said that. You said, I'm not doing it. I'm not telling you not to do it. Which I think is, again, I say funny. I don't mean funny, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, it was so crazy. Like you never said that, but somehow suddenly you're like this anti-vaxxer lunatic, which is so bizarre, because that's not what you said.
No, it's not. And yeah, obviously anti-vax means you are 100% against the vaccine, not just for yourself, but for other people, and you don't believe in it. I never once said that, but it's part of it. I'm anti-alcohol right now because I'm in my training camp, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-alcohol all the time. It's just right now while I'm in training camp, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person if you do drink alcohol. I will enjoy some alcoholic beverages, some adult beverages when I beat Justin Gaethje on November 6th. But, it's just a hot button issue. It's a tough time for the entire world. It's a tough time to see the human race fighting amongst each other. And there's just a ton of different things going on. And it's a time right now where I want to quiet the noise, because I've, listened to a lot of the noise outside of training camp. Once I get into training camp, I want to focus on, my health and my training and getting better. And I've, unfollowed a lot of certain accounts and don't watch the news. And I try not to watch, other things that are going to well up those feelings of kind of turmoil and chaos. I think that's a goal of a lot of people. They thrive and love the chaos that's happening, when really it's chipping away at the moral fabric of this world, and it's chipping away at the love that we should have for each other in the human race. And if I've offended people, I'm sorry, but I believe that we all have individual liberties, and we should all be able to stand on our own 2 feet and make our own decisions.
I remember the days when we could disagree about things, and that didn't mean the end of the world. It didn't mean you couldn't be friends with somebody. I've had debates. I had a debate last week, I think a week or two ago, with Jake Shields on Twitter over the whole Joe Rogan ivermectin, that whole thing. And we went back and forth on it for a little bit, and at the end, Jake said something to the effect of "good chatting with you." And I said, "Oh yeah, it was good chat." Like, that was it. Like, we don't hold ill feelings. I don't dislike the guys. We disagreed on something. We just, that's it. And I've known Jake for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, we disagree on something. I don't agree with him on something. He doesn't agree with me on something. All right, that's fine. We could still chat. There was a day when you could disagree with people, and it didn't mean the end of the world. Didn't mean you couldn't talk to that person. Didn't mean that you had to shut them off. I think that's probably the biggest issue we're dealing with in this country right now, is that you can't disagree and still be friends about it. You know what I mean? Like, I really hate that.
Yeah, it's true. And my personal course of action, I do respond to a quite a considerable amount of people on Instagram. When I'm sent a direct message on Instagram, and it's about, fighting or training or mindset or this or that, I respond to a lot of people with care, and I give them a little bit of time, and they say, "Holy cow, I never thought you would respond." And obviously this was no different. People would say, "I can't believe you're anti-vax," which I'm not, but that's what they think I am. And I can't believe this, and I can't believe that. And it's always great. About 90% of them, I ended up getting in a numerous message conversation with, and by the end of it, they have to, I'm just, I've been given a platform. So therefore they think, by me actually conceding to them and actually having a normal conversation and showing the humility, number one, I think it reinforces in their heart, mind, and soul that we really are in this together. And even though we do disagree, we're not enemies. I'm not a bad person or a good person, and you're not a bad person or a good person because of this choice about the vaccine or about other things. And so I think it's important, and I think it's incumbent upon people with a platform to give those people that time and have a conversation and show them that the funny thing is, I'm just a normal human being. I'm just a normal guy. Obviously, I've been blessed with some great gifts and gotten a great platform that I've worked hard for over the last 13 years in mixed martial arts. But I still wake up in the morning, brush my teeth, and put my pants on one pant leg at a time. And words do hurt, and things people say do affect you. And you try not to let them do it, but we need to continue to remember that we are human beings and we are humanized. And especially even me, who's this tough guy fighting a cage for a living guy, still just a normal guy with a heartbeat, just like you and just like everyone listening here. And that's just, it's where we need to kind of get to. And I think if I'm going to, and like I said, I didn't ask to be put in that headline about the vaccine. I didn't ask to be thrown into the fire of that debate. Or even with the picture that I took with Donald Trump, obviously that was another debate that happened. I didn't ask for those things. Those were just me, living my life. But when those things happen, it's very important to respond to those people and not just, post and run or be in the middle of it and run. I want people to know that they have access to me, probably a little bit too much at times. But I enjoy the discourse, and I also just enjoy it because whether somebody has an egg on their profile, it's a real profile. I mean, you can tell what profiles are fake, but you can tell when people are real people on their real Instagram and on their real social media profiles, and you're talking to a real person. That's another human being sitting somewhere around the world. And if you can make an impact there, that's what I'm trying to do. I by no means spend way too much time on it, but I definitely put time into it to make social media social and be social with people.
Yeah, all you have to do now, Michael, just seek out Joe Biden, take a picture with him, even it out, so everyone can
exactly
even it out.
That's the thing, man. It could have been Barack Obama or Joe Biden, and the same people that unfollowed me, which I lost. I got unfollowed by 6,000 people in a 24-hour period. But if I would have done that, all of the people who hate what's going on in the country right now or followed Trump would then unfollow me, and it's just like. There's so much, like you said, there's so much reaction and people are reacting instead of responding. And it's part of it, man. It's a byproduct, positive or negative, of the beautiful platform that I've been given. And people are going to love me. People are going to hate me. People are going to be indifferent. And you just got to continue to go with the flow. You can't try to please everybody because in the end, you please nobody. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully I can just stay in the positive headlines moving forward, whether it's by my own doing or not, so.
Yeah. Last thing before I get you out of here, in addition to your fight career, Michael, you've also recently become an analyst with the UFC, which was awesome. I thought you did a fantastic job. That was a great opportunity for you. So before I get you out of here, let me ask you to put on your analyst hat, because I mentioned earlier, everything goes well for you against Justin Gaethje on November 6th. It would make natural sense for you to then move on and fight for the title. So if everything gets finalized, it's all signed, sealed, and delivered, Dustin Poirier is fighting Charles Oliveira next. Can you give me your thoughts on that fight? And do you lean one way or the other in terms of who you would pick?
I think Dustin Poirier has the edge. I think Charles Oliveira has shown improvement in his hands. Obviously, he was a grappler, has the most submission wins in UFC history, tons of bonuses because of those submissions. But he has really come a long way with his striking. So I think we've seen the best Charles Oliveira that we've ever seen. But I just think Dustin Poirier is a little bit better in all of those different areas. I think Dustin Poirier doesn't have the repertoire of submission skills to be able to submit Charles Oliveira in some kind of slick submission, but he could very well hit him with something really hard and choke him. Dustin Poirier, it's no secret, he's got great cardio, great footwork, great power in his hands, and great boxing. So I think he uses that to thwart a lot of Oliveira's attacks, and I think he finishes Oliveira's third, fourth round, if I had my guess, because obviously Poirier can keep his foot on the gas an entire 25-minute fight. We haven't seen Oliveira do that. Obviously, he didn't need to do it against me. But I think Poirier has the edge in that fight if I had to put my money on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Michael, it is always a pleasure and an honor to catch up with you. I said it before, I almost feel bad doing an interview with you right now because we don't have to say anything about this fight. It's so good. I'm just looking forward to it. I cannot wait. I mean, this is like one of my favorite fights of all time. Not even this year. This is one of my favorite fights of all time. I've been waiting for this one. So I cannot wait for November 6th, but thank you for doing this. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Good training camp, safe travels out to the fight. Looking forward to seeing you in New York. And thank you as always for the time. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, Damon. Appreciate it, man. I'll see you at the top.